Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Racing on Slow Motion Broadcasting. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call, and beside me in the commentary booth, my partner, Ken Miller, and tonight's producer is Mike Braun. And tonight we are here for round 3 of the SRG F-4 series at Fuji Speedway. This is only 125 clicks southwest of last week's venue, Tsukuba. Fuji opened in 1965, so approaching its 60th anniversary here in 2025. And in that time, it has hosted the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix in 76 and 77, once again in 2007 and 2008. Current host to the World Endurance Championship, 6 Hours of Fuji, GT World Challenge Asia, Super GT, Super Formula, and many others. Today's configuration opened in 2005, 4.6 clicks in length, 2.8 miles, 16 corners. The current lap record of 118.426 set somewhat predictably by Felipe Massa in a Ferrari F1 car back in 2008. And my goodness, Ken, what a contrast we have this week, as just the straightaway at Fuji is 1.5 kilometers long. That is almost as long as the entire Tsukuba circuit. So we're going to be seeing a lot different kind of style of racing here tonight at Fuji. So what are you looking for out of these drivers this evening?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. It's a totally different type of track. It's way longer, probably twice as long of a track, a longer lap time. Partway, it may be seen as a little easier going down the front straightaway. Everybody's going to get a time to reset every lap, kind of be able to take a moment, rest the hands, get ready to start digging back into turn one. I did notice as we were showing the weather forecast, there is 82% chance of rain, it looks like. So we'll see whether those showers hit during race time or maybe get lucky and it only hits during practice or qualifying. But that would definitely have me concerned to see what drivers are going to do on a wet course here, especially with the long straightaway.
Yeah, rain at Fuji, and that is a common phenomenon. If you watch any of those F1 races in the 2000s, there are a couple of torrential downpours that took place in those races. I think one of them had a number of laps behind the safety car. That one won by Lewis Hamilton, I believe, in 2008. But yeah, rain certainly threw these drivers a curve in the Tsukuba race last week. And the interesting thing there, Ken, was the number of drivers who rolled the dice going out on wets. You could tell somewhat from the radar and from the forecast that the track was going to start wet and slowly dry, or actually I had that backwards. It started dry, it started raining, and it got wetter throughout the race. We saw some drivers diving into the pits for wets, but at the end of it, the guys who stayed out on dries were significantly faster, even though they are running on slicks at Tsukuba. Now, Tsukuba is a slower, lower speed, kind of lower risk track, and the same might not hold here. But yeah, the weather gods definitely like to mess around with these F4 drivers, so we'll do our best to keep an eye on that weather for you. And as I said last week at Tsukuba, they had practice and quali in the dry, and as they rolled out onto the grid, that sprinkling started, and it rained throughout that one. So tire strategy could play a role in this one, and it's going to be interesting to see these cars out here on Fuji. They are not really high powered. I think they're about 160 horsepower four bangers, but they do have significant ground effects. They do have significant mechanical grip, and they're getting around here pretty fast. In practice, we saw Mikovits lay down a 141.8. So, they're getting down into the low 142s at the pointy end of the field, which is pretty darn quick getting around this long circuit.
Yeah, it's just, I think these cars are, whatever kind of compound of tire they have, the rubber doesn't really lay onto the track too much. So it's not surprising hearing that the Tsukuba race ended up where dry tires were still faster with a slightly wet track. The races are very short. You've got 20 minutes. It's very much a sprint race. Pitting and taking those tires is huge cost of time. So I don't think these cars lay down as much rubber. Now, this track is certainly a much higher speed track. I would expect them to have a lot of rubber laid down here with the way they've been running practice. The thing that does get me concerned, you see a lot of drivers sliding through the middle of the corners here. If you're sliding and its track starts getting wet and the way they're having to use those curbs to carry all their speed onto, such as the long front straightaway. See them almost 3 wide here in practice. They're really getting testy. So touch those curves, you're going to lose control.
Ooh.
And we have contact between Christopher Cook and another car.
Yeah, now might be a good time to mention you saw that F4 car shedding some body panels after that hard contact into turn one. Somebody missed their braking point there, obviously, but the damage is off, folks, if you're just joining us here for the first time. So even though those body parts are cascading over the fence, the iRacing gremlins are going to pop out and repair those cars, and they will be back underway. So these F4 cars out in the wild public servers can be a little fragile. A little bit of wheel contact can cause suspension damage, and it makes them a little bit high stress to drive in the public servers, but that is not a problem for these drivers, so they can relax, work on their racecraft, and a little bit of bumping and grinding is not going to end anybody's race. So I think it's a good decision for people who are getting into open wheelers to dial back the difficulty a little bit and let them run without damage out here.
Yeah, it's going to get you a lot more experience too, and you don't have to worry about the damage in this kind of series. 20 minutes short sprint race. Get as much track time as you can. Know that you don't have to worry about it. The wheel-to-wheel contact, it happens all the time in iRacing, and this track, certainly compared to Tsukuba, it's going to test how people draft. It's going to certainly test how people handle high-speed corners, and even in a 20-minute race, you're going to see tire management really play probably the keyest role. Who slides the car the least will definitely be the winner of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking a look at Mikovits here, we're going to hop on board with him, and here he is coming under the timing tower on that long straight. This is one of the longest straightaways in all of motorsports here, as I said, almost a click and a half long, and very critical to get the braking right here into turn one. We saw somebody blow it earlier. Got to nip that inside curb and extend the exit out past the white line. The racing here at Fuji does not take place solely within the white lines, and you got to learn those track limits and where the off tracks are to get a fast lap here. And you see Mikovits nipping the inside curb there. You want to keep it going fast through there. And here we are in the kind of painful, it's almost like the carousel at Road America, where you're riding that understeer, torturing those front tires, and you got to get it woed up here for this slow left-hander, and then back on the power for this long blast on this curved kind of back straightaway. And now we're coming up to many people's least favorite feature at this configuration. The old circuit would just be a nice sweeper here at the end of this section, but no, we're going to have this soul-crushing first gear right left chicane here until we get back onto the regular circuit. And you see Mikovits banging over those sausage curbs. These cars tolerate the curbs okay. I would probably stay off them at higher speed when you're more aero reliant, but we're going to see these drivers testing the boundaries, and that's one of the risks that you have to take to put down a hot one, is definitely smooching the red and white, and every now and then you might bang over those yellow sausage curbs. Haven't been out here myself in one of these cars, but as a GT3 racer, that's always kind of a risk reward, I guess, calculation that you're making when you're deciding how much of those curb to take. And that was a hot one indeed by Mikovits, although, well, he looks like he was warming his tires a little bit, might have got caught up in a little traffic, so only a 143.5 there, but you see him at the top of our timing tower with a 141.8, about 0.2 ahead of his nearest competitor Case, and about 0.3 ahead of Poborgi there in provincial P3.
Yeah, that was you could see he was trying to test the curbs. I don't know if Mikovits was looking to just warm up the tires. Maybe he was trying to test out a line and see how some of those curbs felt at a little slower speed. But you could see you pointed it out right on left. That's where all the time's going to be found. If you get through those curves and carry your speed, that's going to lead you to a perfect lap.
Yeah, and Fuji, one of those courses, I kind of hate to hear commentators use the word technical, because it seems like kind of a cop out. Like, what the hell do you mean by technical? But I think I'm going to just call it precise. These cars are momentum cars. You want to brake as little as possible. You don't want to overslow for these corners, but if you don't slow enough, you're going to slide and wash out and scrub off a ton of speed. So you really do have to be very precise with your braking, very precise with your turn in, and keep a really good line as you see somebody over rotating there. And that is another thing about these F4 cars. They are not putting down 1,000 horsepower by any means, but they're putting down enough power in those light chassis to light up those rears. Of course, no traction control on these cars, so you want to get on the power as quick as possible to get a run down some of these straights. But if you get on them too early and with too much aggression, you can see these things loop, as we've seen several of them do, and just saw one of them do back earlier in this lap.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We just got, it looks like about just under 3 minutes, whether anybody will try and set a faster lap. And actually, Stephen Case just went to the top of the board running a 141.55. So he is really moving there as well. So see if anybody else puts down a good lap in practice. I think we're getting the best out of the drivers, but make no mistake, like you said, the power to weight ratio, these cars, they've got a lot of ability for what they're built for, but they're not a Formula One car. They require a lot of the driver's hands to keep the thing straight, and a lot of their legs to make sure that throttle control, brake control is getting the cars into the corner and out of the corner smooth and fast. You see the rear ends very finicky on these cars. They'll want to just step right out from underneath you. It's all a balance game the whole day long.
Yeah, you got to have fast hands to go to quick opposite lock to catch those little wiggles. And you definitely, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of that during this 20-minute sprint. And my goodness, Stephen Case, I wish I could hop on comms with him and ask him whether that lap was clean or if he had the benefit of the draft here. The slipstream does pull these cars right along. And if you get onto that long pit straightaway, well timed with the car in front, you can get a significant boost in your speed down that straightaway. And Case got a huge chunk of time out of that when he must have moved up about a half a second. Now he's got about a 0.3 gap back to Mikovits there. And and there's one of those little wiggles right there. And like I said, folks, it looks cool, but it is not the fastest way around that corner. Overheats the rear tires. They take a little while to bounce back after you spin them up like that. And yeah, it's a constant game of ballet here. A game of ballet. That's ridiculous. It's a constant struggle to time your use of the throttle and be easy and gentle with your inputs and smooth as possible, because when these cars are right on the ragged edge, they are on the ragged edge, and you saw a little bit of it right there.
Yeah, and the weather's playing a huge factor, I think, into the challenge these drivers are having right now as well. 21 miles an hour, cloudy track, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It's now dropped down to 65 degrees, so we've lost, just since we've gotten on the broadcast, almost 13 degrees. Track's going down a lot. It's getting slick. There's a lot of rubber that's been laid down for the last hour. 21, now 17 miles an hour wind. That's going to really put a tailwind or a headwind on these cars. It's going to want to kick these cars around. Drivers are going to have a handful if the conditions stay the way they are.
Yeah, too right. And look at that humidity, 92%. And that is making this track, it's cold and it is greasy. And with weather coming in, I'm not sure if Mike's able to give you a look at that radar or not. And I'm almost tempted not to ask because it's pretty iffy, even if you do get a look at it in terms of how accurate it is. But with that high percentage chance of rain, I feel pretty confident that we're going to see a little rain at Fuji here, as commonly occurs, and that is going to throw some curveballs at these drivers, and that is going to end our qualifying session. And we're going to wait for the session to tick over here, and qualifying is going to be underway. And we'll have to watch the front of the field here, Kenan. I'm thinking that the guys up front in the pointy end of the field, the alien class drivers, are going to want to stick together here and get a little bit of leapfrog going on that front straightaway to maximize the draft and make sure that they qualify well with only 20 minutes and not a lot of really good passing opportunities here at Fuji. This qualifying session is going to be very, very important and track position critical during the race.
Yes, I will. You see the whole field is rushing out there to start their warm-up lap and get some heat in the tires. Looks like one car's gone off at 1. But that's quite the train. You'll see if everybody gives them space. But the reason they're all out there is, like you said, it's the draft. The draft is everything for putting down a qualifying time. And 15-minute qualifying session, I'm figuring you might get 8 laps, and by then your tires are probably gone. So, people are going to get out, might see cars come in and take new tires, maybe get a 3-lap run and a 4-lap run, see how the draft kind of works. You're going to see the fast guys try and line up with the fast guys. That's where the speed will be. Anybody you can kind of match with, you can follow them through the actual road course to get to the front stretch without costing you too much time, so you can benefit from that whole draft. That's what it'll all be about, just a timing game for the qualifying.
Yeah, and interesting point about those tires. If you have to do 2 out laps, it definitely takes a big bite out of your qualifying time. But if you think that it's worth it in terms of time gain, I guess it's a chance worth taking. And we are going to take a look here now at the season standings on our 3rd race in. And here is our inner alien class up front. Kalen Mikovits, for obvious reasons, he can wheel these F4 cars. And we got Case and Velasco rounding out the podium so far in the F4, in the alien class in this F4 series. Here is intermediate 1. You got Corwin, Cook, and Kocher, the 3 C's of F4 up there on the podium in inner 1. And our next class, inner 2, is our biggest and most popular class. Got Jason Trantham, Lloyd, Conway, and Adam Duvall, followed by Cardenas and Hagen will be your top 5 in inner 2, and there are the rest of your standings there. And as you can see, points are pretty packed up there at the top. Not a lot of separation is happening at this early point in the season. That could change, of course, as things develop. And you see, you see a lot of that dragging that right or the inside front tire on entry. And these guys may need to be mindful of their brake bias as this race unfolds. That is the one adjustment that's available to them. It is a fixed setup race, but I believe they do have cockpit adjustable brake bias. And if you start dragging those fronts too much, you're going to overheat them and lose the crisp turn in that you need to maximize your line in these F4 cars.
Yeah, it looks like right now almost the traffic's too thick for anybody to get a real great lap per se. It is starting to thin out a little bit as drivers are, but I would expect these next couple laps are where you'll see everybody's fastest time getting put down. See some cars getting wide there, but I think everybody's just trying to manage it, and they're going to see if now there's enough separation that coming into that final corner that they'll be able to start the true flying lap.
Yeah, and Case actually looking pretty good here, depending on the pace of the guy right in front. He may have an opportunity to pick a draft, get a little slingshot going down this front straightaway, and here the laps are starting to come in. Case already in the high 141s. My goodness, it did not take him any time at all to put down a serious time, and look at the gaps he's got to cars behind him. And be interesting to see what he gets this time through, or is that the time from just now? That is the time that he just posted. So Case definitely had the slipstream lined up as he came out onto the front straightaway for the first time there. Came onto the starter's tower with the lick wit or with the wick lit, depending on your use of the English language. But yeah, we got Case up top with Velasco and Mikovits, De Silva, Cook, and Kocher there sitting right now anyway in P6. So the top 5 cars with only a second covering them, and very, very tight competition here. We're very early in the session, of course, and by the time this is over, we're going to have a lot of cars within a half a second or less at the top of this timing sheet. Great stuff here from these drivers today.
Yes, it is. And like we just saw on our screen, Alex Velasco, he getting held up by traffic going through the one corner. I'll be interested to see what his time is through the next time, because I thought he was having quite a good lap there. But if you have to lift off a little bit for traffic in front of you, you're pretty much throwing away the time. And Stephen Case, he hasn't missed a beat from the way the track felt in practice, because about 4/10 off of that time on only his second lap out there on the tires. I'd expect to see his lap get better. And yeah, 141.848. So he found another 10th that time by. I can see it still improving with 10 minutes left in qualifying.
Yeah, Case expertly managing traffic here, and really doing a good job finding his gap, and really doing a good job catching that draft evidently on the front straight. During the race, I can tell you that he's not going to be sitting on a half-second gap behind P2. That's just him doing an excellent job orchestrating this qualifying session. And then there's Cardenas hopping up, and there's Mikovits. Took a little bit of a bite out of that gap up to Case, but not a big one. Still sitting at 0.347 seconds behind. So some big gaps up front, and a lot of that might be due to traffic management. And Ken, and racing really is a team sport, and I would think that you would be best off. I know a lot of these guys are sitting down at the SRG brick and mortar facility, riding on one of their sim rigs down in San Jose, and may not have their buddies online, but it sure would be beneficial to have a spotter right now to help you out with traffic, to help you find a gap, and to give you some insight on what's going on. But Case, whether he did it with help or did it on his own, is really showing some expertise in getting a really good lap recorded here for qualifying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hopefully during practice, some guys down in the garage were making friends with each other and maybe offering, hey, I'll tow you for a lap, you tow me for a lap, and we'll see what we get, because it's about the only way you're going to get yourself to the top of the board with a long straightaway with these Formula 4 cars. They're going to have the advantage doing that. At the end of the day, where you qualify is where you qualify. Being up front's going to help you a lot, but when it comes race time, it's going to be a lot about minimizing mistakes, making sure to take care of the tires, keeping the thing all in one piece. Don't get too many off tracks. While they don't have to worry about damage, spins do make a issue towards your overall time. So keeping it clean will be also a big factor in getting it up front.
Yeah, and if I'm recalling correctly, I think we did see some penalties here. So there is a penalty limit in this race for off tracks. And looking at Fuji, it's not one of those places that has a lot of 1X traps like some tracks do. Looking at you, Interlagos. So it should be, they shouldn't have too much of a hard time avoiding those 1Xs from running wide on exit, things of that nature. But especially if the weather turns sour here, which we're fully expecting it to. Those spins and adventures off into the grass are going to become more frequent, and they do add up and can certainly impact the end of the race if you end up picking up a time penalty. And Ken, I got to say, I kind of like this open qualifying. Some people complain about it, but I have done some sprint racing at the real life track. I said this last week. I've never had a qualifying session where they cleared the entire track just for me. So this is what it's like on race weekend when you're putting down a qualifying lap. You're doing it with the other drivers on the track, and I think it adds some strategy, adds some excitement, and kind of adds another layer of race management where you have an opportunity to show your expertise. And again, not to beat that drum too hard, but Case really showing his mastery at least today, and he certainly could have got lucky, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Case is both.
Yes, he turned down a great time. He got it done early, and he's able to kind of sit back a little bit and just see if anybody's going to give him a run for his money. And he's still got time. He could get out there and still get himself a couple more hot laps on fresh tires if he wants to. So he put himself in a great position for the qualifying, and the traffic's the way it needs to be done. It's difficult. There's so many cars, and we talk about how much bigger this track is compared to a Tsukuba. Fuji is also not necessarily one of the larger tracks that we'll see them go to on the circuit. So they're going to have a lot of different tracks where they will get a little more freedom, a little more space when they're doing a qualifying run. This just highlights, like you said, a variable. You've got to play with another factor. If you want to get up front, you're going to have to do more than just to put down a good lap by yourself. You got to put yourself in a good position on the track during qualifying to get a good lap. So I like it.
And
It's
some
quite a filled track.
Yeah, absolutely. And some great camera work there. You saw riding along with Mikovits, and you saw him extending those track limits, getting up onto the curbs, getting outside the white lines. Absolutely critical here at Fuji, and especially in a car that doesn't have a lot of power to cover up your mistakes. So again, precision and keeping your speed up as much as possible, the name of the game with these cars, more than some. And we see a little side by side action here coming up, getting close to the front straight. We're almost to that last right-hander. Very difficult section here. You have to be very patient and try not to over-rotate the car and spin, or go wide and go over those sausage curbs, as we saw a couple of guys do both of those things right there. So Fuji, pretty tough track, and yeah, super important, as I said, to be good on the throttle coming out of that last corner onto the pit straight. Make sure that you get a good run. Probably the most important corner on the track, with the possible exception of turn one. Really important there to get the car woed up without overslowing, to put the power down early and take advantage of that little run approaching the 100R carousel.
Yeah, Mikowitz, they're going across the line. I thought he was going to have a little better time using the draft, but I think where he had to pull out there the last little portion before he got to the finish line, it wasn't quite the right time and to maximize all that speed. But he's very close. He's very consistent when they do line him up in there at the front of the grid where it is a little clear road ahead. I think you'll see him right with Stephen Case the whole time.
And my goodness, tip of the hat to Cardenas there, sitting right now in P4. That is an Inter 2 driver, and he's got one pro driver and the entire Inter 1 field behind him. So Cardenas also able to put down a hot one, driving way over his head here. So tip of the hat to him, and he'll be P1 in his class, followed by provisionally Posada and Bujak there. And in the Inter 1 class, that's Katra from Wang from Corwin as your provisional 1, 2, 3 for qualifying. Qualifying ticking down here. We have about 2.5 minutes left, I believe. And Michael, whisper in my ear if I'm wrong, that if you cross the finish line before the timer hits 0, this server is set up to let you complete that lap. So they're not going to pull the rug out from under you if you got a hot one going. So qualifying is probably going to extend a little bit beyond what our timer is showing there on our SDK scoring tower. But still not a lot of movement. Mikovits has taken another little bite out of Case, but still has not broken that 142 barrier. Case still sitting with a comfortable lead at a 141.75. We got about quarter of a second gap back to Mikovits, and look at Wang jumping up. He heard me talking about Cardenas and said, no, I'm not going to have an Inter 2 driver in front of me, and he has jumped all the way up, passing Velasco and Cardenas back. He's all the way up into P3 provisionally here, and he is in the pit. So that is interesting, Ken. And some of these guys might be taking your advice, getting a quick change of tires and trying to pull off a hot one, but they're, you know what? I take that back. They're out of time probably to do that unless they have a very fast outlap and cross the start finish with just a handful of ticks remaining. So our qualifying order settling in here, and as our fans are gazing toward the approaching rainstorm, trying to figure out when the rain is going to come, how much they're going to get, and how it's going to impact this race.
Yeah, that's what everybody's waiting on. It's nice to see how fast you are with dry tires and a little bit of a cooler track, but we're all waiting on the rain to come. It's dropped down a little bit from 91 to 87%, but that wouldn't have me sitting very comfortable if I was inside the paddock right now watching my car go around this track, trying to figure out how I'm going to get ready for the actual race.
Yeah, and I'm can only assume that drivers are going to take a look at that replay from last week and take a look at the tire choices made by the other drivers. And on a fairly short track, that Tsukuba circuit, I think they were lapping in about a minute out there, and on that, or less even. And you know, the gap between the wet and dry tires was 3 seconds on a lap that was taking less than a minute. So out here, that would translate into 6-7 seconds if that same holds true. So people are going to be really thinking about that. A lot of people went out on wets thinking that they wanted to play it safe, and guys up front on the slicks somehow drove away. I was surprised, but apparently they weren't. They knew what to do, and they made the most of the slick tires, and the treaded tires not even close in terms of lap time. So it'll be interesting to see if that same thing plays out here.
Yeah, it's going to hurt your lap time, but this track is very different than Tsukuba in that the high speed corners are going to really make a big difference when you hit them in the rain on a slick tire. It's slow track, you can kind of manage it. You're never really getting yourself too overwhelmed. This track is going to put quite a challenge on slicks, as we see the 77 hit the wall quite hard there.
Yeah, I think some of these guys destroy these cars just kind of for fun. But my goodness, look at Velasco. Takes a huge swing at Stephen Case and almost connects 63 thousandths of a second off of Stephen Case's provisional pole there, and Velasco almost gets himself up into P1. But if these numbers hold, which they are likely to, he will share the front row with Case and start in P2. So as we wait for the last few cars to come around, and you see those iRacing repair bots quickly throwing those F4 cars back together after a huge impact into the concrete. Yeah, not everything is realistic about this simulator. As we wait for the last couple of cars to finish up here, we're going to have that starting grid for you in just one moment.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting qualifying session. That was very action packed. The track stayed full the whole time. I'm quite surprised you didn't see more drivers go in about halfway through and try a fresh set of tires, whether they felt like just lightening the fuel off and getting more heat into the tires on a cold track was going to be more beneficial to them. But that certainly had me a little shocked to not see more drivers come in and maybe take one last strong jump for the pole.
And it looks like all the cars are in here, so we should have that those qualifying grid up for you here in a moment. And this is our viewers' favorite part. I have to not only fly through 36 car grid in a very short time. Once they grid up, I have to work my way through some unfamiliar names. They're growing more familiar, but this is my second time out with these SRG F4 drivers, and apologies in advance. I think I got everything mostly sorted out, but we'll see how I do here. But we're going to have those qualifying results up for you in just 1 second. Oh, and there they are. As I said, it is Stephen Case up front with a 141.7 pole position. Great lap by him. Alex Velasco taking a huge swing at Case, unable to close the gap, but gets it down to 63 100ths. Will be in P2. Mikovits next to Poborgi there in 3 and 4. Wang next to Cardenas in 5 and 6. Josh Leslie will line up next to Tyrone De Silva in row 4. It'll be Gotcher next to Corwin in 9 and 10. And I'm flying right past our class polls, and I apologize for that. Cardenas there in P6 is in P1 in his class, and Wang is in pole position for the Inter 2 class. But back to Kotcher. And whoop, there they went. Now we're on Lopez and Christopher Cook in 13 and 14. Bujak will be next to Duvall, then Navas next to Ganesh, Brashear next to Swanbeck, Grunsky next to Trantham, Conway next to Samudio there in 23 and 24. Then it'll be Van Wagner next to Dillon, Vase next to Meyer, Chia next to Glasser in 29 and 30, Hun next to Hyde, Dan Clark next to Neil Day in 33 and 34. And in the last but not least, row 18 will be Paul Murik next to Suresh Kumar in 35 and 36. And as you see there, that is Case in the red car to your right. So he will have a slight distance advantage from Velasco in P2, but we'll have the outside entry into turn 1. This is a standing start, folks, and obviously no traction control, no anti-lock brakes on these cars, so they're going to have to get them off the line clean and get them woed up into that very hard turn 1 as the hardest braking zone and the tightest corner on the circuit. So it is just possible that we could see some body panels flying here off of the start, and looks like there's a couple cars holding up the show here. Looks like Ryan Chia needs to join the grid, and then we will get things underway. Yeah, there's the lights, and we are about to go green for 20 minutes at Fuji. And we are green, and they are off. Case looking good out the start. It's Case from Velasco from Mikovits. And looks like Case is going to move way over here and try to cover the inside, and does. Velasco goes back to the racing line. Still Case from Velasco from Mikovits. And oh my goodness, there are some body panels flying, a cloud of smoke, and some contact. And who could have seen that coming? 35 cars from a standing start streaming into turn 1. But the front of the field gets through clean, and we are underway.
Yeah, it looked like Dan Bujak and Joshua Leslie had a little slight contact there, but no harm, no foul. That's just the difficulties of getting through turn 1. But everybody stayed straight, no major loss of controls. And Alex Velasco, he's right on there. He's tried to make the lunge on the outside in turn 1. I think it kind of hurt him getting down the second straightaway, but he is right there with an opportunity to look once we get back to the straightaway with the draft.
Yeah, and I think you're right on Leslie as he kind of plummeted down through the timing tower. It looks like he lost about 8 positions off of that start. So cars coming together there, unfortunately, on the first turn. And after working so hard for that 15-minute qualifying and getting yourself in a decent position, it is a real drag to lose all of that. Track position so important at this track, and especially such a short race. But here we go as we watch Case coming on to the front straightaway. That is turn 16, the Panasonic corner onto that long, long front straight. He'll weave over to the inside to try to break the draft back to Velasco, but sitting pretty good right now. He's got a .6 gap back to P2 and about .2 further back to Mikovits, although Mikovits looks like it's closing down a little bit. You see that draft going to work, and Case managing almost a 144 flat off of a standing start, and he has lit the wick early here, Kenan. My goodness.
Yeah, I think the first time going down the straightaway right there, a lot of drivers sort of showed their hand of how they're looking to get through the first 20 lap or 20-minute race. Uh, I thought Megavis was going to go on the inside there, having the draft on Velasco. He chose to stay right behind him and make sure they keep the pressure on to get to Stephen Case. So they're not looking to race for second. They're trying to work together right now, see if they can get themselves a chance to go for the win.
Man, and
That's,
Case really throwing down the gauntlet here. Look at that interval, .8 already. And if you're Velasco, you cannot let him get away. I mean, if you're at that interval is up to a second or more by the time they get onto the front straight, Case is going to drive away, and you really are not going to have any chance. And I jinxed him right there. It already is up to a second, and now Velasco can forget about Stephen Case as he drives away and has got to keep an eye on his rear view because Mikovits has got him wound down to about 4/10, which is definitely within drafting distance. So Mikovits may have a crack at Velasco this time. And down in Inter 1, it's Wang from De Silva from Corwin. They're pretty well. They're about a second apart, actually. And in the Inter 2 class, it's Posada from Cardenas from Navas. And Posada to Cardenas looks about a half-second gap. So this field spreading out very quickly. And I see somebody plummeting there. There may have been another incident, and a couple people. My goodness, Lopez has gotten into some kind of incident. He's down 22 positions, sitting in P35. Obviously, he got in some kind of wreck. You see somebody there in the background, and watch Mikovits. He's sniffing all over the back of Velasco, tries the outside of turn 1. Velasco will cover the inside, and that is not even turn 1. My apologies. I completely got lost looking at the timing tower, but obviously Mikovits sniffing around there behind Velasco, and those two, I think, are going to be fighting for the next 17 minutes or so, Kenneth.
yeah, they are. I think Mikowitz definitely he's getting held up right now by Velasco in these opening laps. Whether Velasco will be able to find a little more speed and keep him in front, but Mikowitz went for the move at the hairpin at the backstretch and got kind of hung out on the outside. It cost him a little bit of time and a little bit of the opportunity at the draft.
Yeah, and there was Lopez, and it looks like it went from bad to worse for him as we watch his replay. He had a couple spins in succession there, and some more or is that another replay of the same incident, or is he just getting hit over and over again? And as I said, Lopez qualified up in P13 and is now sitting in P35. So Lopez playing the part of a ping pong ball here and having a terrible go. And taking a look at Ken Glasser right now in the 41 car and see where he is on the grid. I'm not seeing him on the timing tower here unless I'm looking in the wrong place. Oh, that's a replay of Glasser having a problem going wide. And things are looking a little messy here. Looks like we're doing a quick review of some of these incidents. And here's Suresh Makar here. And I'll see what happens to him. Oh, yeah, it tries to trail brake there on that tricky left-hander. Trail braking is useful in these cars. It can take some of the heat out of the front tires, take some of the pressure out of the front tires, but you got to be careful how you do it. And, oof, my goodness, there is a little bit of contact there. Was that Velasco getting getting dinged a little bit, and looks like it didn't slow him down. But Case, meanwhile, driving away. It's Case from Mikovits from Velasco. Case has got over a 2 second interval now, and Case showing how it's done. Absolutely driving away here.
Yeah, he's really putting on a clinic so far. We're only a quarter of the way through the race, though. There's certainly time you're seeing a lot of these spinouts. I think you got drivers that are finally pumped up. They're pushing it. Cars getting a little warm. You're seeing a lot of the rear ends go around. So that's just something the drivers are going to have to keep fighting with all day. And even if you do have to slide the car, you're better to slide the car and keep it straight than to lose the rear end fully.
And I'm just going to whisper quietly to our producer, Mike. Mike, are you seeing anything on radar? It looks pretty bright out here. That's 87% chance of precipitation, looking just about as good as a Portland, Oregon weather forecast, because not seeing any sign of it so far. How's the radar looking? Oh, it's down to zero. Okay. Okay, there's your iRacing weather model at work. It was 90% chance at the end of qualifying, and now it is zero. The sun is out, so the drivers are not going to have to deal with that wild card. And we're as we watch Christopher Wang here leading his class, crossing the start finish. We're about 5 laps in on this one, and this one is going to go by quickly. Oh my goodness. And that contested entry into turn one, that one could have ended in tears, but everybody showing some respect, lining up and living to fight another day there. But that was a close one.
Yeah, Mikowitz, he's actually starting to catch a little bit on Stephen Case there. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that as it goes through. Whether he's right now he's got a faster lap last time by, so we'll see if that picks up. He gained almost 3 tenths the last lap. He's got plenty of time to work with to get himself back up there, especially with the draft. You don't have to get all the way to the rear bumper. You just need to get about half a second behind, and you can certainly get to them from there. Uh,
And here is Paborgi. He is moving up into P4 overall there after being held up a little bit by Wang, a lower class driver, and showing a little bit of a kerfuffle there in that beloved chicane, my favorite part of this layout. And oh my goodness. And folks, hold your brakes. That was not the rear entry that we needed to see there out of Cardenas. And that has cost him. He's now down 8 positions. He was sitting well into the top 10. And that looper there in the chicane has dropped him way, way down. There's a look at Molina now is going to try, or actually Molina trying to defend here, and unsuccessfully. And maybe he was watching his mirrors there. He definitely was getting some pressure and was potentially pressured into a mistake here. And back up front to Poborgi, and he has just gotten past on that lap Wang. So the top four locked out by our alien drivers, but Wang still looking good. He is right there with them and sitting in P1 in Inter 2, or Inter 1 rather. It's Wang from De Silva from Corwin, and Inter 2 is Posada from Bashir from Cardenas. And as you can see there in our timing tower, those darker orange intervals are intervals less than 1/2 a second. So Wang right up with Paborgi, and De Silva right with Wang. Corwin hanging pretty tight there too. So the top three in Inter 1 driving very well together and keeping this one close. Oh, and as I
yeah,
say that, there goes De Silva. That may be him there on the side of the road, and De Silva had some kind of an issue. We go back and take a look at that,
yeah, the high speed
and
corners are definitely getting in the best of some of these drivers. The rear
yeah,
ends are just very tough to keep underneath.
yeah, looking good there so far. And boop,
Hmm.
overcooks that entry. Just a brief moment of lockup, and that was all it took for De Silva to go plummeting down the standings. And in most sportsmanlike manner, he backs out of the way and does a very careful reentry. A lot of traffic going on here, and I'm sure his fellow drivers appreciate that. But yeah, that cost him. He was right up in that front group of the Inter 1 drivers, and that spin dropped him back substantially.
Yeah, it has. Every mistake is just time lost on the track that is going to always affect your finishing position. And even you look at the front of the field, Mikowitz, a lot of his 2 second gap right now is all from the opening couple of laps. Once he kind of got clear of Velasco, he's been able to hold his own and has knocked off about another tenth. So he is making time. It's going to come down to Stephen Case make a mistake. It's the only
Oh
way he
my
may get
goodness.
there. You see,
Yeah,
these
that's
cars are squirrely.
Yeah, nice move there by Posada, making a move on Ganesh and pushing his way. Posada currently running P1 at inner two, and he is pushing his way up into that inner one field as you see him pressuring Ganesh, making the pass in turn one. You see Ganesh getting a little squirrely there, and about halfway in, or 11 minutes in with 9 to go, and you can see the tire wear starting to impact these drivers. And you got to be very careful. If it's like I say, it looks cool and it's kind of fun to slide them, but the more you light up the rear tires, the less traction you get as they overheat. And you got to care for these tires if you want them to care for you down the stretch.
Yeah, and you saw Mikowitz there. He almost lost the rear end himself. He's pushing that car about as hard as he can through those corners. As you see, the car in front of him goes a little wide there.
Yeah, Mikovits and Velasco. This may be one of the better battles. They have been all over each other like glue. I think there was at least one pass there. Yeah, they did swap positions. Velasco started the race in P2 with Mikovits behind him, so Velasco was able to make that pass. But this one not over. You see that draft go to work. You see that gap dropping. It's down to point 0.2 now, and is Mikovits going to try something here, or is he just going to bide his time? Mikovits does dive inside with Velasco leaving the door wide open there, frankly. A little surprised. He looked like he was going to cover there, but completely left the inside open. And maybe he's hoping to just set this up right here because he's going to have the inside entry into this next corner. So Velasco shakes him, Mikovits there after it looks like Mikovits had the pass but was not able to make it stick. And so that's classic F4 driving. These cars are all identical. The setups are all identical, and it is just the skill of the drivers that is setting people apart. And a little bit wide there, Velasco. That might have been a 1X, but as I said, the racing here at Fuji does not take place solely within the white lines.
No, it doesn't, but that was great defense by Velasco. He played that very smart. He could have ran it a lot more aggressive going into one, but I think he knew what corners he had coming ahead of him, and he made the best of it. He's gonna at least hold him off. We'll see what happens going back into one again. That's where the fight will be.
Yeah, too right, Ken. And he definitely was using his crystal ball to kind of look into the sequence of corners instead of just turn one. And I think you're right. He played that absolutely perfectly. And I think we're looking at a replay here, watching Trantham, and oof, little bit too much curb on exit there. And again, you don't want to overslow. And he was trying to keep his speed up for that. What do they call it? That 100R carousel, and a little too hot there, and off he goes. But damage off, and he's back underway.
Yeah, that was a tough spin, especially it looks like an overcorrection to see the car go off track left there. You usually see them go more off right as they're trying to get the car going back the other way. So just a little too much wheel, a little too much power under it, but he's back underway now, safe and clear.
And here's Mikovits and Velasco again side by side. That same section where we just saw that spin. And yeah, these guys are going for it. About a 4/10 gap there. And looks like Mikovits has pressure from behind as well. We're riding with Mikovits and looking up at Velasco with about a half-second gap, but he's also got Pavorji right behind him. So very tough fighting up here, at least in the 2 through 4 of that alien classes. Velasco from Mikovits, from Pavorji, with Wang hanging around there too. So good little train up here at the front. Those 4 cars separated by just about a second and a half. And meanwhile, Stephen Case, it's turning into a track day for him. Look at that gap now. 6 seconds with 5 minutes left. So Case enjoying his outing here at Fuji, and that dominant qualifying was not luck, apparently, as I was wondering, was not a fluke. He owns Fuji, and look at him drive away here.
Yeah, Case has certainly been the class of the field, very much start to finish, practice, qualifying, now the race. He's having really a perfect weekend so far. The real battle we're looking at, though, the second, third, fourth, fifth place, they're all right there within each other. That's going to get a little hairy over these last 4.5 minutes. You're going to see drivers push it. Some drivers have been getting the draft the whole time. Now it's time to start taking advantage of it, and no better place to do it than turn one. We see
Yeah,
Christopher Wang's going
absolutely.
to dive it in there and try and hang on.
Yeah, and this is the part of the race where the adrenaline is building. You're watching those minutes tick down. We've got about 4 minutes and about 4:10, four and change left, and the adrenaline is building. You're trying to plan your move, maybe show your nose a few times as you see Wang there getting a little loose, heading into that carousel. And my goodness, these cars are definitely a handful, and the tires, as I said, you overdrive it for a couple laps, and you got to kind of back out of it and let the tires kind of take a breather and catch up. And Wang starting to drop off the back of that train. Velasco from Mikovits from Pavorji, and here comes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There is Mikovits and Velasco side by side entering that chicane. These guys are just going nuts, still side by side. And it looks like Velasco is ahead there by a nose, but Velasco just, oh my goodness, putting up with incredible
And
pressure here.
Paborgi,
And there's Poborji gets by Mikovits. He saw Mikovits flogging that car to death, and that may have cost him some grip and allowed Poborji through. And my goodness, we're coming down to the end here, folks. These three cars, that is Velasco from Mikovits, from Poborji. They're about half a second apart, the three of them, and we'll see what they do coming down into turn one, riding now with Poborji looking forward at Mikovits and Velasco. That's Velasco leading in the purple car. Wang still trying to hang on to the draft, but they're kind of losing him, and there's a little duck inside. That is Poborji. He's going to try the inside of turn one while Velasco covers. And what is Mikovits going to do? Is he going to follow what we saw Velasco do on the previous lap? Let him have the inside and take the inside on the next corner. And yeah, that's what he does. And he takes the Velasco method there. And you called it perfectly, Ken. He was seeing that sequence of corners and not just turn one. And again, you saw how to play that perfectly.
yeah, Paborgi, he's definitely doing everything he can to try and get himself onto the podium. And Mikowicz definitely put himself into a bad spot. He got himself caught racing Velasco. Didn't quite make the initial move work and wanted to stick trying to push on the outside. And really, now he's found himself not in a fight for second. He's in a fight for third.
Yeah, riding along with Danush now. And tough braking zone right
Oh,
here. No
contact.
contact. We saw that. My goodness. And folks, if this was a normal race with damage on, both of those cars would be taking a tow right now. These things don't like banging into each other side by side like that, but they are going to race on. And it is still Velasco leading Mikovits, but a lot of pressure here. Poborji has fallen off a little bit. We may take another look at that contact that may have knocked Poborji off his game a little bit, but Mikovits still all over Velasco. And yeah, here is a replay, and we're going to take a look at a little wheel bang in here. We're coming off that back straight into that very tough right hander into the tight chicane, and doink. Yeah, it looks like that's Mikovits, I guess, or no, that's Poborji in the red car. Turned into him a little there, didn't leave space. And here's Poborji again, and he's going to try the inside. And Mikovits, I'm going to call it the Velasco. Is he able to make it work again? And no, he can't. Poborji slams the door in his face, is not going to let that happen a second time. Tries, takes a peek down the inside, but no, Pavorji this time has made this one stick, and I don't think we're quite on the white flag lap. Would have been pretty epic if we were. But maybe Michael correct me if I'm wrong about that. But Pavorji may have another lap to hold off Mikovits, and you know that Mikovits is going to take a swing at getting that one back. And take a look at Ganesh here following Kocher. That is 4 and 5 in the Inter 1 class. And man, oh man, this has been kind of nonstop fighting up and down the field. And this one, very good performance put on by all these drivers today, and a great show.
Yeah, and the person smiling ear to ear, seeing all that happen in their side mirrors is Alex Velasco. They can race all they want. He's put himself in a perfect position. Second place ought to be secured. Two nice clean laps, get it to the finish. Mikowicz, he's going to try and line himself up for the draft going into one. That's where the move will be made, and we'll see how hard he wants to dive it in. That's going to be your really your last chance to get there.
Oh, and that
Oh,
was the white flag lap, and I apologize that that got by me. But Case is going to take the win there, and that big move by Pavorji to get himself onto the podium was a classic last lap move down there into turn one. So great driving by actually the whole field, but some really good driving by Pavorji, Mikovits, and Velasco as they fought for those bottom two podium positions while Case drove away. So cars still coming across the line here. We've seen Wang take the checker, P1 for inner ones, and Posada is going to be your winner for the intermediate two. And we're going to have the final results for you in just a moment here. And that might have been a photo finish too. There, deeper on down in the field, so many cars out here, folks. It's a little bit of a handful to stay on top of all of it. We've got a 36 car grid here today. Cars running in three classes, but man, oh man, fantastic show put on these guys today. And Fuji is a pretty good track, Kenan, for these cars that have a little bit of downforce.
yeah, it is. It's good. It's a nice combination between some very difficult turns as well as being able to utilize all that wing and have a little draft. Kind of helps keep the field sort of packed together to an extent, especially you get a good group of cars running about the similar lap times. They'll fight for it at every lap through the whole 20 minutes at a track like this.
All right. So as we wait, it looks like we still have a couple of cars here yet to take the flag. And gosh, one thing I didn't notice, we got six cars parked during the course of that one. So looks like car 29 there will be our last one to take the checker under power. Everybody 30 and below has parked it. So they're going to finish this one in the pits. So we're going to have those final results up for you here in just a second. And Kenan, maybe you would like to go through that result sheet, and I will take a look and check our interview room and see if any of these drivers want to spend some time with us here.
Yeah, well, we can go through the results here. So we had Stephen Case, obviously your winner of the inner alien class. Christopher Wang, fifth overall. It's going to be your winner in the inner one class. And then let's see. Am I reading this wrong? Was it Rafael Cardenas winning the inner two? Yeah. So that's top six has all three class winners in it, which is pretty incredible. You did see some of the aliens fall behind a little bit there. Guess we want to go through the podium. Stephen Case, Alex Velasco, Caitlin Mikowitz. Fourth place, Danush Paborji. Fifth, Christopher Wang. Sixth, Rafael Cardenas. Seventh, Joshua Leslie. Eighth, Tyrone De Silva. Ninth, Jason Kutcher. 10th, Joshua Corwin. 11th place, Justin Snyder. Diego Posada actually had a great run, finishing 12th today. And 13th, Adrian Lopez. Christopher Cook coming up 14th, and Daniel Bujak rounding out the top 15. 16th place, Adam Duvall. 17th place, Jose Navas. 18th place, Athul Ganesh. 19th, Thomas Brashear. And rounding out the top 20 was Dan Swanbeck. 21st was Igor Grunsky. 22nd is Jason Trantham. 23rd, Lloyd Conway. 24th, Rodolfo Samudio. 25th, Aaron Van Wagner. 26th, Colker and Dillon. 27th, Sarah Vaz. 28th, Greg Mayer. 29th, Ryan Chia. 30th, Ken Glasser. 31st was Michael Hun. 32nd was Embriet Hyde. 33rd, Dan Clark. 34th, Neil Day. 35th, Paul Masick. And 36th was Manish Shurshkumar. And that'll round out the whole field. And like we said, the last six cars were not able to finish the complete race, but 30 cars finishing that action-packed race that we just witnessed was quite a feat on its own, as difficult as this track is.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And there are a couple folks lingering outside waiting to speak to us in the commentary booth. So we'll go ahead and bring in Christopher Wang. And Chris, am I pronouncing your last name right?
Yes, you are, or it's how I
Awesome.
pronounce it at least.
Okay, fair enough. A buddy of mine has the same last name, and he says Wong, so I guess it could go either way. But Chris, fantastic drive, and you were hanging right there. You were part of that train with Velasco, Poborgi, and Mikovits, and you must have thought coming down the stretch that. Driving all the way up to the podium was within reach there. I mean, you were right there. So, what was going through your mind there as the clock was ticking down on that one?
Thank you. Yeah. A few things. One is I don't remember exactly who's in what class anymore, but pretty sure I was first or second in my class, and most of the cars in front of me were in the other class. So I think on that last lap, you might have seen me back out a little bit. So that was trying to not to interfere in that too much. But I was kind of happy to hang around and get a awesome view of a three-car battle in front of me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You did have the popcorn seat, and yeah, you were P5 overall, and that is a P1 in class. So an excellent drive, and I bet that was pretty cool to see those guys fighting. We covered it quite a bit, and they were going back and forth and banging wheels for that entire race. So really great stuff. Yeah, so really good job, and looking forward to what is next on the schedule for you. Is it Sandown?
You guys might know better than me. I tend to keep things a week at a time, and I
You know
think that's
what? No,
a bunch of new
that,
tracks to me this week, this
I
season.
gotcha. Well, that is probably a smart approach. And again, congratulations on a great drive. And I really thought we might see you press into that pack of aliens there at the end, but it sounds like you might have thought better of it and just been happy with the P1 in class. But either way, a fantastic drive, Chris. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, definitely wanted to give a shout out to you guys. I love watching these broadcasts. I missed the last couple of weeks, so being able to catch up on them through the broadcasts have been great. Always shout out to Captain Kotcher, the leader of SRG. And yeah, shout out to all the other racers out there. I think we were up to the 30s today, so a lot of cars on track. Sure, there was plenty of great racing all around.
Yeah, 36 car grid. And can I ask, are you were you driving at the SRG brick and mortar facility or driving from home today?
I am an at-home driver.
Gotcha. Well, I imagine it can be a little convenient for a number of reasons, but all right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Chris. And again, a fantastic drive.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you guys next week.
All righty. And lingering around in the hallway, we also have the P1 driver from the Inter 2 class, Diego Posada, with pulled off a P8 overall. And good drive by you, Diego. You moved up 4 positions. And I'm not that good at math, but it looks like you had 4 or 5 drivers from the class above you behind you, and you finished well into the top 10. So a fantastic drive. How were you able to pull that off?
Well, I think track familiarity helped out a lot this week. We've probably done this over the last year and a half, maybe 4 or 5 times under different circumstances. So I knew coming into this week that I knew this track pretty well. Um, and it just, yeah, things clicked.
Well, you certainly look good out there, and were able to stay out of trouble. And to what extent, things got a little messy in different places in the grid. To what extent is keeping it clean important in these F4 races?
It's mega important. It's super important. Fortunately, we had a lot of space on this track, unlike last week. But yeah, I had no real major mistakes for me that wouldn't have cost more than like a half second or something like that, like a little oversteer here and there. But yeah, that was definitely a contributing factor. The X's I got this race were mostly just because like off tracks and stuff, so nothing serious. But yeah, keeping it clean is massively important in these races for sure.
All right. Well, an excellent drive. And as we wrap up here today, is there anyone you would like to give a shout out or thanks to today?
Once again, shout out to Jason for hosting all this stuff. It's a ton of fun, and I love coming every Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. So are you down at SRG right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Me and my roommate, we've actually probably been coming since like the second season Jason ever hosted. We've been here, so we've been
Oh,
here for a long time, and we're gonna keep coming.
beautiful. And I'm not sure we've gotten the address or neighborhood. And so what part of San Jose is this place at if people want to come by and check it out?
This is on the east side of San Jose, kind of off 101 in Tully. It's right actually off 101 in San Jose, California. And I'll also, if I could toot my own horn, I don't have a sim rig at home. I only come here on Wednesdays and race. So anytime an inside person gets a good position, I feel pretty good about it.
Well, awesome, man. So you are representing the show up and drive folks, and fantastic job, and congrats on the P1. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you so much. Cheers, guys.
All right, man. Yeah, take care. All right, and that was Diego Posada, who rolled down to the brick and mortar facility there in East San Jose, California, saddled up on one of the rental sim rigs, and got himself a P1 in the Inter 2 class. So fantastic work by Diego. And coming up here, I think we've got, we're going to run through with you some upcoming features here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. So next week, be sure to tune in on Tuesday. That's going to be at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you are looking at a Mustang, of course. That is the American Muscle Series, and that is going to be taking place at Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen, a great place for those V8s to stretch their legs. And on Wednesday night, the Ray Esports Club League is going to bring Formula V racing and specboard racing to Mid-Ohio, another classic track. We got some great stuff coming up for you folks. And as we're going through this, don't forget to subscribe to SMB and hit that notification button so that you don't miss any of the action. And following that, oh yeah, we also have the SRG Sim Racers group coming next week from Sandown, and that is going to be Wednesday night as well. And if you're bored this weekend, we're still in the spring, the weather still isn't that great. We've got all kinds of stuff. We've got the Ray Esports Racing Weekend Warriors. That's going to be coming to you Saturday at 2:20. We're going to have Formula V's at Summit Point. We're going to have on Sunday at 12:45 Eastern, Formula Fords at Brands Hatch, and SRF Spec Racer Fords chugging their way up Eau Rouge and around Spa-Francorchamps. So that is going to be a good one. Those SRFs always put on a good show, and what a great track to enjoy them. And Sunday night at 8:10 Eastern, the Cross Series League Racing. They jump from car to car from week to week, and this week it is going to be the Pro 4 trucks at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. So once again, don't forget to subscribe to SMB, hit that notification icon. We've got some fantastic cars, fantastic tracks, and fantastic drivers most nights of the week. So stick with us here and enjoy some of the best sim racing out there. So woo. Well, that is going to wrap it up. And folks, thank you so much for joining us for today's broadcast of the Sim Racers Group Formula 4. We have got action 7 days a week, as I said. And I am J.R. Gregory on behalf of myself, and a welcome to my partner, Ken Miller. Thank you to our producer, Mike Braun, and everyone else here at SMB. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are, and we'll catch you later.